Charlotte air travel. Last night, a Delta regional jet that took off from Charlotte had just landed in LaGuardia in New York when it was clipped by another jet that was headed out. The wing of the outgoing flight made contact with the fuselage of the plane from Charlotte, damaging the nose. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. Joey Annunziato was on board at the time of the incident.
At the time, we didn't really know kind of what we hit. We just, did we hit the gate? Did we hit another plane? Did we hit a truck? What was it?
Now, Delta says it will cooperate with the ongoing investigation. The FAA tells us one of the planes involved didn't follow instructions from air traffic control. Aviation expert Captain Richard Levy says, there could be multiple reasons for this.
And so what's going to be looked at is already looked at. I can tell you, Jamie, right away, are the communications. Did somebody miss something? Most likely the taxiing aircraft. Were they told there's a traffic on chart final? When that aircraft lands, you'll be departing. We use technical language, but that's civilian thinking and talking there. So who misunderstood the instruction? The pilot or did the controller issue a clearance to get on the runway prematurely?
So as that is all being sorted out, we're also trying to get a grasp on what happened at Charlotte Douglas over the weekend. An American Airlines jet had just come in from Europe, and during a maintenance check, a body was found in the landing gear. We don't know who the person is or where they're from. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police are now investigating the death. We do know this is not the first time this sort of thing has happened. Back in 2011, a teenager stowed away on a plane that left Charlotte. He was found dead after falling out of the plane as it approached the airport in Boston. Now, earlier this year, 2 stowaways were found dead in the landing gear of a JetBlue flight that landed in Fort Lauderdale. So yes, these things happen, but they are also incredibly rare. In fact, take a look at this here. The FAA says between 1947 and 2020, there were 128 stowaway cases worldwide. The one thing that is not rare, though, are the fatalities. 77% who try this die as a result.
And the reason is because it's not pressurized, it's not heated. The noise is unbelievable for hearing. But as far as surviving without oxygen, pressurization gives us oxygen above 10,000 feet is when the chances of surviving diminish a whole lot. And then when the airplane's at 20,000, 30,000 feet, for any amount of time, they're gone. They're without oxygen. The temperatures are going to be minus 40 degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit. They're almost the same. That you can't survive with that. And then the time across the North Atlantic and coming down to Charlotte, you're talking 7 or 8 hours. The noise, the lack of pressurization, lack of heat, a human being will not survive that.
I think we hear stories like this every so often, and they're startling because our first question is, how in the world can something like this even happen? What do you tell people?
Sometimes it's innocent, if you want to say it, that a cargo person falls asleep in the cargo hold. That has happened, believe it or not. And then the cargo hold is closed up for departure, and then the aircraft takes off, whether it's flying across the U.S. or across the North Atlantic.
Is there a sweep that happens before takeoff where someone's kind of going around the aircraft, checking some of these places to make sure that the plane is okay to take off?
It's a pre-flight walk-around inspection. So one of the pilots will walk around the aircraft to be sure that all the doors are closed and there's no damage to the aircraft. And yes, you look into the landing gear. Now, that's not done right before takeoff, before we push back from the gate, 20, 30 minutes beforehand. And that's apparently when somebody would get in there. And maintenance would look at it, but not within the last 20 minutes there.
Does this concern you any way about a lapse of security that could have happened at some place if this turns out to be a civilian who just somehow got onto the tarmac and inside this airplane?
Now, if it's not an airline employee, Jamie, and that person wants to come into the country illegally, it's a big topic we know, that they got onto the ramp and they got the landing gear concerns me tremendously. On the other hand, if it's an employee of that airline or another airline that has the ID, the TSA's approved, then they have authority to be on the ramp and to get up there in the landing gear.
Still all that to be sorted out. We'll be tracking the investigation for you.